Catherine O'Hara's story has always been bigger than any single role, accent, or costume. She represents a rare kind of performer whose work seeps into everyday life, becoming part of family rituals, shared jokes, and seasonal traditions. For decades, her presence has carried warmth, familiarity, and a sense of joyful chaos that feels deeply human. She never relied on spectacle alone. Instead, she built connection through timing, empathy, and an uncanny ability to understand emotional truth beneath comedy. Audiences didn't just watch her characters, they trusted them. That trust is why her work feels timeless, why it survives trends and generations. Even when she played extremes, there was always a recognizable heartbeat underneath. Her career reminds us that comedy, at its best, is not about noise or excess, but about recognition. We see ourselves reflected in her characters, imperfect, anxious, loving, and trying their best. And that reflection has been her greatest gift. Roots of humor and survival. Growing up in a large, lively household in Toronto shaped Catherine O'Hara long before cameras or scripts entered her life. In a home filled with voices, humor became a way to be heard and understood. Wit wasn't just entertainment, it was survival. That early environment trained her instincts, teaching her how to read a room, how to pivot quickly, and how to turn chaos into connection. These skills later defined her comedic style, grounded yet fearless. When she entered the demanding world of improvisational comedy, she brought with her that same resilience. She wasn't interested in dominating the spotlight. She wanted to serve the moment. This approach made her indispensable. Audiences sensed that she wasn't performing at them, but with them. Her humor grew from observation and empathy, not ego. Those roots stayed visible throughout her career, anchoring even her most outrageous characters in something honest and deeply relatable. Finding her voice in comedy. The world of improvisational comedy in the 1970s was unforgiving, competitive, and often dismissive of women. Catherine O'Hara entered that space without apology. She didn't soften herself to fit expectations, nor did she force her way through with aggression. Instead, she trusted her instincts. Working alongside future legends, she proved that intelligence and generosity could be as powerful as bravado. Her performances stood out because they felt complete, never rushed, never half-formed. She had the rare ability to disappear into characters while still guiding scenes with precision. Colleagues often noted her discipline, her preparation, and her respect for the craft. Comedy, for her, was not chaos but architecture. Every pause mattered, every reaction counted. This seriousness about comedy elevated her work and changed how audiences perceived the genre itself. She helped prove that laughter could be sophisticated, emotional, and enduring all at once. Yang. Buankikini kisai I we si yo yi. Cultural constant. When Catherine O'Hara appeared as a frantic yet loving mother in a certain holiday classic, she unknowingly stepped into cultural permanence. That performance became more than a role. It became a shared memory, passed down through generations. Each year, viewers return not just for nostalgia, but for comfort. Her character embodied panic, devotion, and vulnerability in a way that felt authentic. She wasn't a caricature of motherhood, she was a reflection of it. This ability to ground heightened situations in truth became a defining feature of her career. She brought humanity to spectacle and warmth to chaos. Over time, her face and voice became synonymous with reassurance. Even when the characters were flawed or exaggerated, they never felt distant. That consistency turned her into a cultural anchor, someone audiences trusted to guide them through laughter without losing emotional credibility. Few performers achieve that level of quiet permanence, some perfection behind the ease. What often looked effortless on screen was the result of deep focus and internal discipline. Catherine O'Hara has long been known among collaborators as a perfectionist, not driven by ego, but by responsibility. She treated comedy with the seriousness of a craft that deserved care and respect. Every word choice, every gesture, every pause was considered. This dedication sometimes came with self-doubt, a quiet questioning of whether she had truly done justice to the moment. Rather than weakening her work, that doubt sharpened it. She pushed herself not to impress, but to be truthful. This internal standard explains the consistency of her performances across decades. She never coasted on reputation. Each role was approached as if it were the first. That humility kept her work fresh and prevented stagnation. The audience laughed, unaware of the careful architecture beneath the humor. But that unseen effort is precisely why the laughter lasted. Reinvention without compromise. Late career reinvention is rare, and even rarer when it feels organic rather than strategic. Catherine O'Hara achieved it by refusing to chase relevance and instead trusting her instincts. When she introduced audiences to an eccentric theatrical character later in her career, it felt less like a comeback and more like a revelation. The role was bold, layered, and unapologetic, yet grounded in emotional truth. She didn't mock excess. She explored it. Viewers responded not just with laughter, but with admiration. The performance proved that creativity doesn't expire and that experience can deepen rather than dull originality. Awards and recognition followed, but they felt secondary to the cultural impact. She reminded audiences and industry alike that talent matures, evolving into something richer. Reinvention in her hands wasn't about changing who she was. It was about revealing more of it. Exactly the right time. Privacy as strength. In an industry built on exposure, Catherine O'Hara has always treated privacy as a form of self-respect. She drew clear boundaries between her work and her personal life, not out of secrecy, but out of balance. This choice allowed her to remain grounded in a world that often rewards excess. She rarely fed gossip, avoided unnecessary spectacle, and let the work speak for itself. That restraint was quietly radical. It preserved her energy and protected her relationships. Colleagues often describe her as present, kind, and focused, qualities made possible by that guarded personal space. By choosing discretion, she resisted the industry's pressure to turn every experience into content. Her life off-screen remained her own, and that ownership strengthened her performances. She showed that longevity isn't just about talent or opportunity, but about knowing what to withhold as much as what to give. The weight of giving joy. There is an unspoken cost to being associated with joy. Audiences expect light, reassurance, and emotional availability, even when the performer is human first. Catherine O'Hara carried that expectation with grace, but it was still a weight. Comedy requires presence, energy, and vulnerability. Giving that consistently over decades demands resilience. She managed this not by denying fatigue, but by pacing herself, choosing projects carefully, and honoring her own limits. The joy she delivered was not careless, it was cultivated. That care protected her artistry and preserved its impact. Her work teaches an immortantering. It's about empathy for creators. Behind familiar comfort lies effort, discipline, and emotional labor. Recognizing that doesn't diminish the joy, it deepens it. Understanding the cost makes the gift more meaningful. Her career invites us to appreciate laughter not as something endless, but as something intentionally and generously given. A legacy that breathes. Catherine O'Hara's legacy is not confined to awards, characters, or iconic moments. It lives in the way her work continues to comfort, inspire, and connect people. She has shown that humor can be intelligent without being cruel, bold without being empty, and lasting without being loud. Her influence is visible in generations of performers who learned that comedy could carry heart and dignity. She didn't just create memorable characters, she modeled a sustainable, humane way to exist in an unforgiving industry. That example may be her most important contribution. Her legacy breathes through reruns, quotes, shared laughter, and quiet gratitude. It reminds us that art doesn't need tragedy to be meaningful. Sometimes the most powerful stories are about consistency, care, and presence. Catherine O'Hara's work endures because it was built on those values, and that endurance